On July 15th, Donald Trump announced his choice for vice president. From a shortlist of three, he picked J.D. Vance, the junior senator from Ohio. For Vance, it was not a smooth elevation. Traditional Republicans hated him. Rupert Murdoch and hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin, for instance, lobbied hard to keep him out. Murdoch's newspapers, the Wall Street Journal and New York Post, wrote editorials supporting North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. But Vance also had powerful backers. Elon Musk wanted him. Tucker Carlson called up Trump and told him that if he dumped Vance and chose a neocon, US intelligence agencies would have every incentive to assassinate him and get their preferred president. Despite all these interventions, what possibly worked for Vance was the support, the complete and absolute support from Trump's sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. Both insisted on having Vance on the presidential ticket. Back in 2016, when Trump was scouting for a running mate, among his closest advisors were his daughter Ivanka and her husband Jared Kushner. And both of them were establishment-friendly centrists, and they preferred someone with a similar profile, so they supported Mike Pence. But now, Ivanka and Kushner are no longer in the picture, while Eric and Trump Jr. called the shots, and they wanted Vance. Another reason that prompted Trump to choose Vance was the assassination attempt against him on July 13th. As his popularity soared, Republicans quickly closed ranks behind Trump. It gave him the perfect opportunity to complete the takeover of the Republican Party, decimating whatever minor internal opposition that existed within the party. The show of fealty at the Republican National Convention by Trump baiters like former Governor Nikki Haley, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and Texas Senator Ted Cruz made it clear that Trump could do as he pleased. It also conveyed a sense that a Trump victory was now inevitable, so he went for Vance, the closest thing to a miniature version of himself. And in Vance, Trump found an intelligent, articulate, and assertive advocate of the MAGA, the Make America Great Again movement. He found a populist ideologue, an exponent of Christian nationalism, and an isolationist in foreign policy and economic ideology. But that does not mean that Trump did not factor in practical political considerations. For instance, Vance's background makes for a compelling story. He grew up in the post-industrial Ohio Rust Belt. His parents divorced when he was a toddler, and he spent much of his childhood with his grandparents in neighboring Kentucky. After completing high school, he joined the Marines and served in Iraq. Upon returning to the US, he got his law degree from Yale Law School. He worked for a venture capital firm and later set up an NGO which was dedicated to combating drug abuse. In 2016, he wrote a memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which found instant success. It was a compassionate analysis of life in the economically backward rural white America. The book was just in time to explain America's evolving political philosophy when it chose Donald Trump as president. The book identified the grievances and frustrations of white working class who got left behind. So Trump, he clearly hopes that Vance's great appeal among such voters in critical swing states such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and that it will help him flip these states, which were narrowly won by Biden in the last elections. Despite his rigid ideological stance on a range of issues, Vance is also incredibly pragmatic. The best example is his U-turn on Trump himself. He was once a fierce Trump critic. He has called him names like America's Hitler, America's heroine. Once he even called Trump a cynical asshole. But once he decided to run for Senate, once visited Trump at his Mar-a-Lago residence, pledged absolute fealty and carefully aligned his policies with Trump's. On foreign policy, Vance is among the most isolationist members of the Republican Party, and he has been a vocal critic of the Ukraine war and NATO and even Europe's dependence on the United States. Another pet cause for Vance is abortion, a key challenge for Republicans in this election season. Vance has been an anti-abortion fanatic in the past, but he has now softened his position, for instance, agreeing with Trump's plan to leave abortion to individual states. He also echoes Trump's views on immigration and wants to complete the border wall, and he is opposed to any plan to regularize illegal immigrants. But he is not a blind immigration skeptic. He supports a merit-based system for those who want to come to America, although the details are not fleshed out sufficiently. And he has yet another pro-immigration card to play. His wife Usha has her roots in India. They met at the Yale Law School and they got married in 2014 in Kentucky, where they were blessed by a Hindu priest. Vance has praised Usha's devout family for instilling in her a deep sense of faith and moral values. On economy, Vance, just like Trump, supports a 10% across the board tariff on all imports, despite advice from experts that such a move could trigger inflation. He feels that decades of globalization has only hurt America and American workers. So, an economic pushback against China and perhaps even against the European Union cannot be completely ruled out. Vance is also a climate skeptic and he is a strong supporter of the oil and gas industry. He is not yet convinced about the potential of wind and solar energy and also that of electric vehicles. By picking Vance, Trump has made it clear that in his second term he would push hard for the MAGA agenda. Vance is exactly half Trump's age and it matters. His election is not just a political gamble, it is an ideological affirmation of the MAGA movement, a clear announcement that Vance would be the presumptive heir to Trump's legacy. In fact, Vance looks like the perfect torchbearer of the Trump movement, someone who could provide it a clear ideological vision for the future and articulate it persuasively. And he could very well keep the movement alive long after Trump is gone.